Now, what do you think the chances are that Prince Charles is actually going to sit down and do an interview before the coronation? We'll get to the Harryness of it in a second, but what do you think the chances are that he'll obviously be the first monarch ever to do so?
I think it's a very big decision for him to make if he does do it. And there's talk about Jonathan Dimbleby. Obviously, they've got previous. They have spoken before. They have a good connection. And the king obviously really trusts him. But does he want to go down this route? You know, he's made it very clear that as king, he's moved on from his role of Prince of Wales, where he was able to be more outspoken and talk about all sorts of things. And he also knows that it's been a really tricky time for the royals. You know, he's going to be asked difficult questions. He can't just go on TV at this point and not be asked about Andrew and not be asked about Harry. You'd be tempted, wouldn't you, to just leave it well alone at this point?
Well, considering that obviously, I mean, I was in London at the time, and I don't think he could have handled the transition to becoming king any better. I think a lot of us had a bit of an odd feeling about, will he be able to step up? I get it that his entire life was an apprenticeship, but he didn't put a foot wrong in all of that, and he hasn't really put a foot wrong since. And I know that there's a lot of questions there, but I'm not entirely sure that he wants to get, rather than the black and white of, is he doing an okay job as king? Is he doing his best to move the country into a new phase? It would seem like he's going to introduce, some unnecessary curliness to this.
I think you're absolutely right. I think, you know, he can emulate his mother, who famously never gave any interviews and just got on with the job. And that's what he's done so far. And it has really impressed people, as you said. And some people have been taken by surprise. You know, when he spoke, particularly when he made his first public address, he really touched people. And I think that he can have that impact again by doing another public address if he does have things he wants to say. I don't think he needs to go down this route, because there's also a danger that it could be seen as some kind of tit-for-tat situation, given the other very public TV interviews that have happened in recent months. Also,
I reckon that of all of the royals, let's be honest, William is probably the one that if they wanted to put somebody forward to rebut, if they wanted somebody to put forward to deal with all of those things that Harry has said, well, William would be able to do it, would be able to speak from the heart, would be able to confirm or reject whatever the House of Windsor wants. And obviously it's some time before he would ascend to the throne. So you'd think, well, kind of get that out of the way before we get to the coronation in March, and then sort of the Harry question has been dealt with.
Yeah, look, I don't think there's even any particular need for anyone to come out and rebut things at the moment. I think that the approach they've taken so far is the right one. There's a danger with this situation that someone will always have to have the last word. And the more that you give this oxygen, the more it's going to continue. You know, I think the dust will settle. People can make up their own minds. And the key thing the king needs to get on with now is focusing on his coronation. As you say, they don't want to rock the boat further at this stage. And I think William is absolutely just going to be there to support his dad at this point and make sure that nothing goes wrong.
I'm still not entirely sure how a dog bowl can cut somebody on the back, but anyway, the physics of all of that seemed a little bit odd, and maybe there's a certain dog bowl in the royal household that's a lot more aggressive than any of the ones that you and I have seen. But now, what is next for Harry? Is there an assumption that there's another book, there's another series, as part of these mega deals, the book was successful in terms of sales, let alone everything else. Are they done with the content that they've promised all of these organisations?
Well, my understanding is that they have lots of plans, but they're all about looking forward now. And what they want to do is focus on what they actually, do very well, and that's the charity work and the philanthropy. And they, in fact, released the Archwell Impact Report overnight that said that the foundation they've launched has raised $13 million. It specifies where this money has gone, or where it's been donated so far. So I think that's what people want to see again. They want to see them behind these causes that they have been able to shed such a great spotlight on. And it's more about looking out and looking ahead now, rather than looking back and looking inwards and focusing so much on themselves. And I think people are ready for that right now to move forward.
Now, again, we're sort of getting to the tail end of things, but there's some, I think, a creepy thing here that Harry apparently fears for Charlotte ending up in the spare role that, of course, he had to go through. But the idea of this does seem, well, frankly, a little bit, I'd say creepy, because we're talking about a little kid at the moment, and we don't know what his parents, what role his parents will have for her when they ascend to the throne. But what do you think of Harry having a public view on his niece?
Well, look, he's entitled to have whatever views he wants. You know, he has that lived experience. But at the same time, I would put you at Princess Anne. You know, she's the ultimate spare who has made things work. She has the best of both worlds. You know, she carries out her duties impeccably, but she's also able to have more of a private life, I'd say, than other members of the royal family. She doesn't court the media. She doesn't love the media attention, but she gets on with the job and she's hugely respected. She's currently, according to a recent poll, the most popular member of the royal family in this country. So it doesn't have to be a bad ending for the spare.
I certainly noticed that again in and around the funeral, that the dynamics of a normal family, regardless of how regal or how many people are watching, but there's always that one member of the family that takes on a different role, say for a sick parent. And the fact that Anne was by her side all the way through, was at Balmoral, obviously accompanying her casket all the way through, I thought was a lovely reminder of the quality of this person, but also some of the basic humanity that works inside any family, even one as closely paid attention to as this. And then, of course, there's brothers who either fight over dog bowls, or in this case, one is the king, one will never be. One has got one heck of a lot of scandal around him, and King Charles has told Andrew that he's not allowed to stay in Buckingham Palace anymore.
Yeah, look, I think, since he stepped back from royal duties, he's no longer a working member of the royal family. It absolutely makes sense that he no longer has an office there. Why would he need it at this point? And he has this 31-room Royal Lodge to, expand, to do everything he wants within. And he has that as a grace and favour property. He doesn't need the apartment in Buckingham Palace. And I think it sends out a clear symbolism as well, that this isn't how we operate anymore. These things are over. The king's moving in. He's making changes. Aside from everything else, obviously the palace is still undergoing major renovation works. It's going to be ongoing for another 5 years, and not many people are working inside it at all at the moment.